Monday, June 29th, Anthony. We're back. It's another great week of shows.
And I had a great steak because of you yesterday. Thank you, sir.
For more great steak talk, hang out. Anthony, I know we have a lot at stake when it comes to doing this show, but hearing about your ribeyes and you enjoy them makes music to my ears.
Well, we talked Friday, and you said, "Hey, I'm having steak." I said, "Where'd you get it from?" And where'd you get it? Creekstone Farms.
Creekstone Farms, not paying us. Creekstone Farms.
Right, creekstonefarms.com. Please go there and buy steak, because I said as soon as I got off the phone, I bought 4 steaks. They were in my on my porch at 10 a.m. the next morning, and my wife wakes up and goes, Nina, who's my little one, who's 17, so she's always in the mood for steak. Why don't we get some steaks? And I was like, well, I'm glad you say that.
Yeah,
there'll be some steaks on the porch in a while, and there they go. It was the best steak I've ever had in my house. Like, I've never had a better steak. It was delicious.
That's pretty awesome. Before we get into today's show, I'm really looking forward to welcoming Mike Stengel, the SVP of Gaylord Hotels and their conference network. But before we get to that, Anthony, tomorrow it looks like we're going to be going on site somewhere and broadcasting, huh?
Hopefully. You're not supposed to give it away. Why'd you give it away?
To get people more excited and they can tune in and engage, because Anthony and I are going outside. We're going somewhere.
We are. We're going somewhere. We're getting in the cars and we're driving hundreds and hundreds of miles. And you will find us at a location. I will tell you, it is not a church. It is not a restaurant. It might be a hotel. And
it is not hundreds and hundreds of miles, but whatever.
But so, I'm really interested in this conversation today, because there's a lot to ask and a lot going on in this space. So let's get to it, brother.
You got it. Mike Stengel, SVP of Gaylord Hotels. Thank you so much for being here. Big fan of the brand and what you've been able to achieve in regards to the meeting business. I just always loved how you would lock in a group and then they would go from one place to another each subsequent year. I like that business model. I've always also admired them as being the coolest hotels that I've ever been in without a casino. So that's pretty awesome out there. Welcome to the show. I've been seeing a lot of pictures. Looks like you guys are doing pretty well these days with a lot of water park business and families.
Well, thank you, Glenn and Anthony. Great to see you. I actually put a collared shirt on and shaved for you guys today. So,
well, we are impressed.
Well, for people that don't understand the Gaylord brand or know the Gaylord brand, I'm a big fan. I was at Nickelodeon Orlando, and we had our Christmas party at the Gaylord because we had like 1,200 people, employees and their guests. It was the greatest party I've ever thrown. To this day, if an employee sees me, that worked with me at Nickelodeon, they stop me and say, that was the greatest Christmas party I've ever had. And I had it at your place, and it was fantastic. But what do I expect when I walk into a Gaylord? And then make sure you end up with what happens when you walk into a Gaylord in the winter.
Absolutely. Well, the nice thing about a Gaylord building, when we bought this company back in 2012, we just thought we were buying these big convention resort
8 years
hotels.
Already.
Pardon?
I said, wow, 8 years already.
8 years. And so when we actually got into them and start realizing that we bought convention centers that have resorts attached to them, and they're cities. I mean, the smallest Gaylord's about 3 million square feet, and the largest is about 6.5 million. These are enormous buildings. I get my steps in when I'm walking these places. But what's neat about them and what's special is that you can do groups for several thousand people with about 400 to 600,000 square feet of meeting space that is on one side of the building. The other sides of the building feature at least 9, in some cases 15, 20 restaurants and bars. So lots of variety, and then lots of indoor atrium space where you can spend a lot of time thinking. It's funny, guests ask to sit outside in our restaurants, but you're not really sitting outside. You're sitting on the patio of an indoor restaurant. So we have a lot of that space, and we can, they're so vast in space. People wind up just walking them and enjoying the plants, and in Orlando's sake, enjoying the alligators in the lobby, and and then at holiday season we just go all out and we do our ice. Show, which last year I think we sold over 1.5 million tickets to ice, to all the shows, and it's just a fabulous time to get into the holiday spirit.
Mike, I remember going into it in Orlando in the middle of it was whatever degrees it was, 70, 80 degrees.
November, December, yeah.
Yeah, and going in, and I didn't know anything about it. I just happened to be walking in probably to book the piece of business for my holiday show or my holiday party, and I just remember being amazed by it. I was like, okay, I love brands that step their game up and just surprise me, and it was very surprising.
We do this because, if you go around the country and go to any convention center, Chicago, Indianapolis, any of those convention centers, they're all closed up in November, December, because groups don't do conventions in those months because they're home for the holidays. So we needed to do something that would shake up the business a bit and create our own business. At one time, I don't know if you know this, but at one time, Opryland used to close down at the end of the year and then reopen at the beginning of the year. That's right. But that was years ago. But now we were able to sustain. One is we do 60% of all of our transient business in the last 2 months of the year, and we do about 80% of all of our transient revenues in the last part of the year. And it's because we've created this iconic brand called Ice, and we have everything from Cirque du Soleil and building the gingerbread houses and seeing Santa Claus and looking at all the Christmas decorations. And
did you have a DreamWorks partnership to bring their characters and stuff as well?
We did. We had DreamWorks for a while, but what we found is that the traditional Christmas story what resonates more with the customer. And grandmom wants to bring back mom, who wants to bring back daughter, and they make it an annual event.
Right. That's pretty cool. I do want to make one point, Mike. You said you get your step count in. The last time I was at the Gaylord Opryland Nashville, and yes, I am one of the only people alive that can find any place in that hotel without getting lost. I talked to a couple of the security guards and said, how many steps do you walk each day? They average over 20,000 steps each day, according to my unscientific poll. Pretty amazing.
That building's 6 million square feet. What's cool is there's tunnels underneath of it, so I can walk almost a mile underneath of that building to the opposite end without going through the hotel.
Wow.
What does the business look like today? And explain what you run, the convention network. Explain what that is.
Yeah. So today Marriott has 135 hotels that are called the Convention Network hotels. These are all of the convention and resort network hotels that are primarily in at least 50% group mix. And my responsibility is the strategy for driving top line business and benchmarking those hotels against each other. Because when, as Mr. Marriott told me once, is that if the convention network gets a cold, the rest of the U.S. hotels get pneumonia. And it's because these hotels are really the highest level of revenues, but also the highest level of profitability, and they're the most complex hotels to run. The Gaylord brand is the biggest hotels in the convention network, and sit in as part of the network. And I run that brand directly. I'm also responsible for the brand itself, which is kind of unique because all the other brands, Marriott, Sheraton, all have brand leaders that are not connected to the operation. So I'm the brand leader, but I'm also the operator.
Why has the company decided to go down that path so you do both, where in the other parts it's not?
Well, we didn't want, when we bought this brand, it was so unique and so different that if we would have put it into the regions, and we thought that it would have lost its identity. So we wanted to keep it outside the region. Dave Grissom, our president, really was adamant about this, and it's been a great experiment. We've been able to drive the brand to levels that we've never been. We've had record years in the last 2 or 3 years. We're going to have a record year this year, by the way, which just got crashed.
What happened?
Something
What
happened?
happened?
We,
We had a little problem.
The hotel
But,
business called pneumonia.
yeah.
yeah, that's more than pneumonia.
Yeah.
But I was in New York during 9/11. I was the VP and area vice president for New York, and 9/11. Wow. 9/11 has nothing on the COVID virus shutdown.
That must have been an unbelievable experience for you, because for those of you who don't know, because it was back in 2001, almost 20 years ago at this point, that one of the Marriotts that was right next to Ground Zero got destroyed in that. That must have been a very difficult period of your career.
Well, what most people don't know, we lost 3 hotels in one day. We lost the financial center. I mean, the World Trade Center Marriott was destroyed. The Marriott Financial Center 2 blocks away had all its windows blown out. We lost that for a year. And that was opening day for our new Ritz-Carlton down the street. It opened that morning and closed that afternoon, and then reopened a year later. So
wow.
we lost 3 hotels.
That. I remember that. As a matter of fact, I was standing on that corner at your hotel less than 24 hours before with my kids and my wife. But unfortunately, you also lost some employees in that hotel.
We did. We lost Abdul Kalala and Joe Keller. Joe was the front office manager. Abdul was our AV supervisor. And, we were in the process. We had already cleared out the hotel, and the firemen had taken it over. And little did we know that the World Trade Center, they were using it as a rescue place for the firemen. Little did we know the tower would fall on the hotel and destroy it. And unfortunately, never found Joe or Abdul's body.
Wow.
It was basically disintegrated.
So where is the business right now? Where's most of the business coming from, especially in your area of expertise?
And let me just throw out real quick that you've got Nashville, which is the original Gaylord Opryland, Gaylord Texan, just outside Dallas, right? Grapevine. Then you've got the Gaylord Palms in Florida, National Harbor in DC, and the most recent one to the family is in Denver.
Right, and we're developing the one in Chula Vista, and the only one that's not open right now is National Harbor. And National Harbor is a much higher level of group mix. We have much less resort amenities there, and we also we had decided to move the renovation up. So we're going to take advantage of having the hotel closed right now to do those things, and so it's taking a lot longer to get National Harbor up and running. The other hotels are all open. The last 3 opened this past weekend. And we typically do something in the summer called Summerfest, where we augment our business in the summer with leisure transient, because we have great water parks. We have Soundwaves at Opryland, and we have Paradise Springs out at the Texan, and we have terrific water facility at the Palm. So we augment our business in the summertime. Our group business is mixed with leisure. However, this summer we are primarily focused on leisure business, and that's really who's driving this recovery, is our leisure transient drive-in customers from 3 or 4 hours around the marketplaces and are coming to enjoy our resorts. What's great about that is that, these places, we have our Gaylord Clean plan, which is centered around our Marriott Clean plan. We have a website for that where everyone can go on when they get the reservation. They get a link for that, so they can see all the things that we're doing. In most places, we're requiring or requesting people to wear masks in our buildings. We have great social distancing spaces going on. We have so much capacity normally with restaurants and bars and meeting space that we can spread people out. We're doing things like we're doing something at the Palms in the Opryland called Atrium Vibes. So we're doing a live concert on the impromptu on the weekends with sometimes named acts, and they're doing it from a balcony of a guest room. And all you need to do is grab something to eat, sit out on your balcony, and you get to watch the concert without ever going down in any crowd. We're calling it Atrium Vibes. We're doing it over the summer.
That's cool.
It's a lot of fun. So we got creative because we have such vast spaces. We've gotten creative on how to use the space. We're doing, in water movies. So we have a big screen out at the pool. People are distanced around the pool in their chairs, and you can go in the water and you can watch drive-in movies.
That's right. There's the Soundwaves Park in Nashville.
Yeah, that's only the outdoor section.
Yes,
The indoor
right.
section's just
All
as
underneath
big.
that atrium right there.
And
Yeah.
that's open right now.
Correct.
That's open right now, and we had 1,300 people in there this past weekend,
Woo.
and it feels empty because we can hold about 5,000 or 6,000 people in that space, but we spread them out really good. You can see over there to the left, that's the big screen in the water, and you can watch movies. I mean, we do not only adult activities, but we're also doing a lot of activities for families, because families have really been pent up and want to get out there and do things, and we're here to accommodate them. So we're feeling really good about the first couple of weeks. The Texan opened a few weeks ago, and all the other Gaylords opened this past week.
And you're just saying you require people to wear masks? So guests have to wear a mask, or you're just highly suggesting it?
So it's a couple different things, Anthony. In Nashville and in Dallas and in Orlando, it's required by the government, and we're following those rules. In Denver, it's strongly suggested, and we're strongly suggesting it. And guests are very, very cooperative. And we're not asking you to wear a mask and ruin your suntan out at the pool. But we are social distancing you out of the pool. But once you come into the public space, we're asking you to wear a mask, and it's a good thing, because what I like is some guests said this past weekend, hey, we're going to cooperate, even though I don't want them to wear a mask. I'm going to cooperate because we don't want you guys to have any problems and get shut down and we lose the ability to come here. And that's the thing, is we're taking our employees' temperature at the back door. We're asking our employees 2 or 3 questions like you do in a doctor's office before you enter the back door. And we're making sure that our employees are keeping themselves safe, wearing masks, gloves, all of those things to ensure that our guests are going to feel comfortable. We have a disinfected team. They have a uniform in the lobby, these big white uniforms that says disinfected team. And guests are really happy to see them because we're using the misters to mist all of our public space. We empty the pool out after about a 4-hour stint. We ask everyone to leave the pool. We disinfect the pool, and we open it about an hour later. So
wow.
So people feel good about doing that, and we can put as many people at the pool keep it comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Now the chlorine kills basically all the viruses. So why would you close the pool to disinfect it?
So it's not the actual pool we're closing; it's the actual pool decks that we close for an hour, clean all the chairs and all the surfaces, and
wow.
we go out there and mist it, and then we reopen it after 4 hours. Actually, Anthony, I found out that the chlorine in the water doesn't actually kill all viruses. So we want to be sure that we're disinfecting around the pool.
That's great.
I love your attitude of being extra careful to make sure that everybody is safe and playing by the rules, because you understand what's at stake right now, and it seems your customers understand what's at stake right now. Are you trying to deliver that message a little bit more as numbers in Texas, for example, start to rise up?
Yeah, so if you look at our website, when you look at that Gaylord Clean website, and we have some documents that we printed for our salespeople, because my biggest fear is that guests that are on the books in July and August and September, and I'm not talking about leisure guests, I'm talking about our bread and butter group customers that make up about 70% of our business. We want to be sure that we're convincing the meeting planners that to convince their companies and their associations to allow their folks to attend meetings. And we're doing everything to get them comfortable. We've done meeting setups, samples for them. We've brought site visits to the hotels for people to see, but we do not want the business that's on the books to cancel because they're afraid. And we also are adding an extra step, is where those people that are absolutely compromised and just can't come to the meeting, we're offering a virtual alternative so they could actually feel like they're attending the meeting.
So kind of like a hybrid thing. So maybe some people are in person, and then some people can enjoy it from the comfort of their home if they're unable to get away for whatever reasons there are. Yeah. So it sounds to me, because your resorts are so large and you have so much meeting space, you have the ability to pivot a little bit easier to create meetings that hold a lot of people, but follow all the requirements that you're putting in to keep people socially distanced.
Right. We'll put 600 people in a room and spread them out. There could be one person per 6-foot table, and they're in a room that holds 3,000 people. So we're adding microphones and things like that because people are spread out. But
Right.
we're doing one entrance, one exit. We're not allowing people to serve their own coffee at coffee breaks. We're doing that. We're no self-service food whatsoever. We're doing grab and go and drop at the door up in the guest room. So we're doing all these things to make sure that groups feel comfortable. And by the way, is you could have 2 600-room groups at the Gaylord Opryland, for example, and you wouldn't see one person in that other group the entire day because we can spread you out and put you on the other side of the building and never know there's another group in the hotel and make sure that we're keeping people safe and comfortable. We're also we're not going into guest rooms. We've decided that we're only offering housekeeping services in the guest room on request. And what we're doing is once people go out of those rooms, we're tearing them apart, we're disinfecting them, we're sanitizing them, and we're shutting them down and then leaving them empty for the next day for another guest to come in for the following day. But we want to, but the guest room is not, even though we're doing a great job in the guest room, the place that people are most concerned is in the public spaces where guests are interacting. We don't want virtual meetings to work too good.
Yeah, of course not.
We'll be out of business.
Well, Mike, you can never replace the fact that people need to be together to network. A lot of virtual events that I'm seeing online are focused on the educational component, but they can't really get down that real networking component. So I think that you guys will be fine in the long run.
And real road warriors are getting real time.
It's in our blood.
I'll tell you, I'm going to the airport. I'm just going to get on a plane and then just turn around and come back.
I flew last week 2 weeks ago, Sarasota to North Carolina. And, I enjoyed the flight. I think the only thing, everybody was being careful. Everyone wore masks the entire time. They weren't serving anything. I think people's nervousness about flying, I think, will dissipate once they see how well the airports and airlines are doing.
So what's the biggest question outside of hygiene and making everything sanitary? What's the biggest question that meeting planners are asking you going forward?
Meeting planners are asking us to help them convince their company to keep their meetings on the books and convince. And then what we're doing is, we never, during this pandemic, we kept our sales team, our revenue team, and our events planning team on staff. And the reason why we did that is we had so many questions from meeting planners about their particular meeting. So what we did, Anthony, is we didn't want to give a standard answer that your tables are going to be X, Y, and Z. We wanted to do whatever that meeting planner wants to do to make their meeting comfortable. If they want 400 people in a space that holds 6,000 people, or do they want 400 people in a place that holds 2,000 people? We want to make them feel comfortable. We want to talk about entrances and exits. We want to show them the things that we're doing from a cleanliness standpoint. Because if we can do all of that, we believe that we can make a safe and productive environment for you to have the meeting. And that's what meeting planners are asking. They're asking about their particular meeting. And as we get farther out, as we're detailing meetings, less and less questions about virus, because people are anticipating we're going to have a vaccine sooner than later, and that things will go back to normal. But I do believe there are some things that we will, after things do go back to what you call normal, I do believe there will be some practices that will continue.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. We've had some senior leadership on the show. We've had a lot of senior leadership on the show for the last 4 months. And that was most comprehensive description of what's going on. And what I love about what you're saying is you're very much, 50,000 feet. You're looking at everything 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. But you are also in the weeds. You're also you're there. You're looking, the details of your business. And a person in your senior leadership, usually they're the high level, but they really can't ask the very specific or answer the very specific questions. But because of what you just explained in the beginning of the show, is that you have 2 titles, and basically you can actually see that in your description of the way you're talking about your business. And I think that's so critical right now.
I had a customer because when we were putting our clean program together, we went to one of our biggest customers in Gaylord, did almost $65 million in sales with us last year. Wow. And I said to them, hey, they signed a confidentiality agreement. I let them read all of our documents, and they gave us some suggestions on how to improve them.
Right.
And one of the things they said that made me think was, they said, "Hey, we did business with you in New York after 9/11, and the one thing I saw you do in New York, Marriott, was that you took all of your security guards that used to be in a blazer and blended into the wall. You put them in police uniforms. And if you saw a police officer in your hotel before 9/11, you would have guessed as a customer there's something wrong. But after 9/11, the comfort level that brought to our customers made an enormous paradigm shift for, hey, it's great to see them. We never added one loss prevention officer. What we did is just change the look." And so when he said that, I said, wow, you know what? We have all these great people that clean our public space. We're going to change the look. And that's what we did. We've put them in very noticeable uniforms. And it's amazing. After 2 weeks, we've got customers saying, it's great to see those people working out there. It's great to see them spraying and disinfecting the surfaces. We're really, really pleased that you're making Gaylord a great place to come. And again, we didn't add any more folks out there. We just changed their responsibility and changed their uniform. And we're getting some great, great feedback.
And that's a real testament to a brand like Marriott, where you, like a lot of my friends in Marriott, man, they've been there 20, 30 years. I'm sure you've been there for 20,
40
30
years. 40 years.
Wow. And you still, wow, congratulations. You still act like you just got the job yesterday. And there's institutional knowledge that you just cannot replace. And there's a calmness and a specificness to the way you speak that makes me want to go to Gaylord. I mean, you look like we just went through, or we're going through one of the worst things we've ever gone through in the industry, and you look like it's just another Monday.
Yeah, well, this is tried everyone's patience, and the critical thing for us is that it makes me not sleep at night is that we have employees still not working, and our goal is to make it a safe and comfortable environment so those employees can all come back to work and enjoy what we're doing. We're not doing a lot of banquets yet, so that whole banquet organization is still waiting to come back to work. But our goal is to bring this business back to the level that it was, and then surpass that level by doing some new things that make these better places to work. And then also at the same time, make it a better place for customers.
Well, it sounds like you've got the strategy down right by engaging the meeting planners to understand what their real needs are and to partner with them to make sure everybody feels safe so they could get buy-in, combined with a smart plan to really get out there and connect with those local audiences to give you that summer business you need in a season that's traditionally a little bit slower with meetings to begin with. So that's very well thought out. I'd be curious, Mike, one of the cool things is you've been with this company for over 40 years. I'd love for people to know, what was the first job you ever had with Marriott? And at the time, did you ever think you would be able to achieve so much in your career with one company?
Well, it's funny. I never heard of Marriott when I joined the company. I came from Seattle. I'm originally from Philadelphia. Right. My wife was a flight attendant, and we decided we wanted to move back to Philadelphia. So I went to interview at a hotel near the Philadelphia airport called the Sheraton Airport Inn. And I got the job. I went back to Seattle. I got my things. Karen and I drove back across country. We wound up in Philadelphia. I go to work, and my boss tells me, hey, I know you're our new food and beverage director. You're just starting, but Marriott just bought the hotel. So I had to sit down the next day with all these Marriott folks, a guy named John Dempsey, who was the regional food and beverage director, and Carl Kilberg was vice president of food and beverage. They interviewed me. The next day, most of our executive committee, about 90% of our executive committee, and were not retained.
Wow.
I was retained because I had no bad habits. I just got there. And my director of catering was retained, whose name is Bob. And Bob has been with Marriott as long as I have now, and he's the general manager in the Renaissance SeaWorld for us. But that was our first job with Marriott, and I think we only had less than 50 hotels. Today we got 7,000 hotels, and my wife says we've had 38 refrigerators in our career.
Wow,
that's a lot of moving.
It is. Well, it was like being in the Army, because we opened a hotel here and then another one in another state. When I first got to the New York Marquis back in the early 90s, we were the only Marriott in New York City. Today, I think we have 100 hotels in New York City.
And what people need to understand about the Marriott Marquis, I want to talk about that because I'm a New Yorker. I worked at the Plaza, Algonquin, the Lucerne, the Millennium, which used to be the Maclo. I actually, we opened up the Embassy Suites Times Square right after you guys opened up the Marriott Marquis. So I was maybe the second, third hotel in Times Square. So I remember it well. And what Marriott Marquis has been, I remember anytime we have a comp set, I ran the Westin Hotel for Tishman as VP. And I remember anytime we put a comp set together, I would always take the Marriott Marquis out. And they're like, but they're in our comp set. I said, just keep them out. I said, why? I said, because I don't know what they do. All I know is 100% at $8,000 a day and just keep them on my comp set. The Marriott Marquis keeps people up at night.
I didn't know you guys were mortal enemies here.
Dude, all the years I worked there, the worst year I ever had was 93% occupancy.
Oh,
and that
my God.
That was the year of 9/11.
Yeah, if you want to know inside baseball is that Marriott Marquis in New York City is an enigma, and just leave it alone. Don't look at it. Don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. Because
when we built that hotel, everyone said we were insane for building.
I remember.
Especially because Times Square was on the skids at that time.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about the depressing amount of horribleness that was going on in New York City, that was the era. So people thought you were crazy because unlike now, where it is the center place of awesomeness in all of New York City, it was the exact opposite back then.
I remember being out there on New Year's Eve. It was probably 91.
Right. I was there then.
In Times Square, I was the night manager at the Embassy Suites, and I'll never forget this as long as I live. I'm standing outside now. If you've ever been outside for New Year's Eve in Times Square, have you been, Glenn?
15 times.
Okay. Have you, Glenn? Have you been there?
Yeah, I did it twice. Once was amazing. The second time, I almost got crushed by stampeding crowds, so I gave up going.
What happens is, for people that don't know, it's packed and then it's not. It's gone. Yeah. Like in 15 minutes, it's clean.
15 minutes after 9/11. I mean, after midnight, everyone goes home.
And the streets are clean by 1 o'clock. It's fantastic. But anyway, so now all the people coming back in my hotel, and we had a security line, and we had a way to get people in the elevators because it was very busy, obviously. Yeah. And I jump up on the security desk, and I said, "Everyone, please stay outside the building. We will let you in one at a time." And all of a sudden, just a crush of people just knocked me off the desk. They all went in the elevator. They all went in the staircases. And my director of security at the time looked at me and goes, "Well, you tried."
It was funny because I didn't have enough to do on New Year's Eve, so I became the president of Times Square Alliance.
Were you really the president of Times Square Alliance?
Yeah, I was the president for, I think, 7 years, and I was involved in what's going on inside and involved in what's going on outside.
Not to get too much off topic here.
Too late.
Explain to people what Times Square Alliance really shifted everything.
Yeah, I mean, the Times Square Alliance changed the world in New York City. I mean, when I first got to New York, I wouldn't go outside. I wouldn't let my wife go outside at nighttime. But,
unless you needed to buy drugs or get a hooker.
So the Alliance really, with Marriott, had participated from day one in the Alliance. I took over for when Tom Reese, who was originally there. But what happened was they put a private organization for security and a private organization for cleanliness, and we put a community court in the neighborhood. And I can tell you, before your very eyes, the city changed overnight. And, Times Square Alliance with Tim Tompkins, who's still the chairman and president of that organization today, is still one of the best things that New York City ever allowed to happen. And it's made Times Square what it is today, as opposed to what it used to be.
Well,
and it gave people jobs.
Yeah, and let's just since we're on this topic, maybe we could give a little bit more history. I guess it was 96, 97 when Disney committed to buying the Broadway theater, and after that happened, everybody else bought into it, and that's when I guess, Anthony, you got your job with creating the Westin Hotel over there, right at 8th Avenue and 40th.
Right. Then we were in charge of developing the Intercontinental Hotel.
Which is right across the street on 8th Avenue at 43rd.
I ran a company. I worked for a company called
Tishman?
No. Anyway, it'll come back to me in a second. But I ran the Lucerne Hotel, the Belvedere Hotel, all those hotels. and they have a hotel on 42nd Street and 10th Avenue or 11th Avenue, right across the street from the police station. And that hotel Travel Inn made more money than most hotels because it had a pool. It had a pool and free parking. But the problem is 20 years ago, you would go there and go, oh my God, I didn't know I needed a police escort to get my hotel. Now that hotel is still in the middle of Times Square because Times Square went all the way up to the water.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great city. And I also chaired the Broadway Association, which was a lot of fun. And, that community is so supportive of that. Times Square wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the Broadway community.
So let me ask you a question. And this, I think, is really important for young people, especially going through what we're going through. And again, being in a business for over 30 years, I'm not a corporate guy. I've never been a corporate guy. I get in trouble. Every time I get in a corporation. When I was at Tishman, I loved them, but I wasn't a Tishman guy for too long, 2 years. And I was like, all right, I got to go before I get myself in trouble. So how do you become the person in charge of the alliance? Like you're obviously very involved. Also run the Marriott Marquis, which is probably the most complicated in New York City to run. It's a city. People don't know that don't run hotels like that. They don't understand. You're basically like the president of a city running a hotel like that, and still get promoted and still look fresh as a daisy, like you've never done this, like you didn't do this for 4 years. Honestly, and I hate to use the word, what's the secret, but what is your power? Like, how do you do it?
Well, I think in every general manager in our company, especially in the big boxes, if you aren't part of the community and involved in the community and helping with the solutions that are happening in the community, then you can't be the general manager of those hotels. Just like you're the head salesperson, you're also the head of the community and all the activities go on in the community. I'm dealing with general managers in Houston right now, in New Orleans, that are in our big box hotels that are taking great responsibilities to help shape the opinion of our politicians in those cities about how we should allow and rules and whether we wear masks or not masks. And, the hotel community is looked at as a resource for some of these areas. So I think that one of the things is if you want to move up in these organizations, and especially when you work for Marriott, if you have to balance being part of the community or you don't deserve to get the business that you get.
Right. Have you been having an opportunity during this time to get out to each of the individual Gaylords and catch up with everybody and see all the procedures they've put into place?
I have not. I got 5 of the best general managers in the company, and they're all
awesome.
I think the youngest one from service is about 30 years with Marriott.
Wow.
So they don't actually need me to come there, but we do a phone call. We were doing a phone call every day when we built the clean program. We worked on that as a team together with every GM's input, and we really hashed that out to make sure that we were following what we're doing in Marriott and the protocol in Marriott too, because we're a big company. You got 30 brands. We want to make sure that our brand stands out. And we're doing everything possible. A couple of examples is we went out with our ownership group and got Vanderbilt Medical to endorse our plan. Besides having the customer go and endorse it for us, we went to a medical organization that's got a very prominent name, who lives in the backyard of our biggest hotel, who runs our, we have a medical clinic in every Gaylord hotel for our employees. And in case of Nashville, it's not just for the employees. The customers go in there. One time I was doing a walkthrough with the president of Marriott, and he didn't get his flu shot yet. I said, well, let's go by the human resource office. There's the medical clinic, and boom, he got his flu shot. So
that's cool.
So we have a great relationship with them, and it's really helped solidify and validify that our program is for real.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Anthony, you wanted to say something?
I was going to ask. We just had my friend Manny. Manny, she runs the Marriott, one of the Marriott.
Mary Rappanecker.
Yeah.
Oh, Manny Rappanecker. So Manny, I'm Manny's mentor. I hired her many years ago. She worked for me in Seaview, in Absecon, New Jersey. She worked for me in New York. I sent her to Fort Lauderdale. She went to corporate now, and I just talked to her.
Hold on. I think. Wait, Mike is my. He literally at 12:38. Manny says, "Mike is my mentor with the company. Love Mike." He's who I call. I call him all the time.
She never makes a move without calling me first and say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this job. What do you think?"
And
or here's my profit share. What should I do?
And she also says, "Look happy to me. You look so sad today, Manny. I'm not sad. I'm happy today." I'm just thinking, like, I'm literally focusing on what Mike's saying, and I'm mesmerized. But I'm the opposite of sad. But I love you, Manny, and I miss you. Well, that's fantastic. Isn't she one of the most wonderful people in the whole world?
Yeah, she's great, and she did a wonderful job for me. And bringing her to New York was the best because she spoke German, and we had lots of German customers, and she was really helpful in that, and she did a wonderful job with the employees there.
Well, ask her when next time you speak to her, say, "Why did Anthony Melcuri send you flowers?" And she will tell you a very funny story.
Hey, Sal works over at the Marriott Marquis. He appreciates the shout out. And Daniel Dragovich, our friend Daniel, says he loves the elevator system at the Marquis. I think you're the first ones in the country to get that system where you push the floor button you're going to, and then the computers bring the elevator to you. I love that.
Well, Sal's the hotel manager there now. Hey, Sal. But we, putting those elevators in was painful, and being the first in the country made it hard. But now everyone has them, and they're the best things.
Painful. I think it took you like 2 years to put those things in because you could only do it at very specific times because you were running nearly 100% occupancy the entire time.
Bill Marriott used to call me and he said, "I feel sorry for you. All the complaints you're getting." I said, "Don't worry, it will be over."
Those elevators back in the day, I used to literally sit there and scratch my head and go, "Which one? Where? How? Where?"
Yeah, you were like a dog.
And if you don't know where I'm talking about, go into Marriott Marquis and you'll understand. Mike is everyone's mentor and is a true hotelier. There's Mark.
Mark used to be resident manager at the New York Marquis. I know Mark. Hey, Mark.
Yeah, and he worked with Manny, I believe. But
this is great.
You've been doing this for 40 years, so everybody knows you, man.
I know.
But getting back to the question I asked, and you gave a good answer, but I want to know specifically your personality as a hotel general manager and as a vice president myself. I was not a person that you came to that was, I would say, I always was in charge, and I was always, I think we were effective, me and my teams, but I wasn't always calm. I'm a very intense guy.
Yeah.
And when you're in New York and you're running a Marriott Marquis or you're running a big hotel, having a guy like me may not be the person you want to be around all day, 12 months a year. But you have this really calm personality.
Yeah, totally.
Like no one sees you sweat. What's your secret?
Yeah, it really belies the fact that you've achieved so much in your 40-year career.
I'm really good at hiding the intensity because I don't know. There's not. I mean, I'm to the intense point where I'm aggravating to some people because I ask the same question to 1 million people and get a bunch of people working on the same thing at the same time. I want something done. I want it done yesterday. So I'm like that. But I think the one thing, I mean, I started in the hotel business in the dish room as a dishwasher, and while I was in college, and I think that to me, the most important thing in running a hotel or operating these big hotels is you really, really need to know the people that work for you. Why are they working there? What are they trying to achieve? How can you help them achieve their goals? And in Gaylord, we have, for example, in Opryland, we have, 50% of the employees in Opryland are from Egypt. And I would have no idea that Nashville had such a large Egyptian population.
Wow.
And it was all started by Opryland. They went and brought families from a church in Jersey City, and they started this community. And today, half the employees are Egyptian. They're wonderful, lovely people. And it gives us an opportunity to learn more about their culture, serve their food in the cafeteria, eat their food in the cafeteria, and listen to the issues that they have in their community that's going to affect our community. And so I think really, really knowing the employees and what motivates them helps you lead the managers to do the right thing for our employees.
So how do you get to then know all of your employees and have a really understanding of what makes them tick so you could create a better working environment for them?
Well, when I was general manager, and I always tell my GMs today, what the first thing you do is, one is you have to eat in the cafeteria. You don't go eating in the restaurants. You're not any better than anybody else. And when you go to the cafeteria, find a table with people that you've never sat before and sit there and be nosy. Ask
Right.
them where they're from, how many kids do they have, what sports teams do they support. By getting all that information, really, one is it helps you remember their names. And I bet you today I can still go back to the New York Marquis and name 1,000 employees. But the fact is that you can learn all about them by knowing their sports teams, learning where their families are from, what country they're from, and really getting to know them. That's what great GMs are doing today. And that's how they get to know all these employees. The average Gaylord has 2,000 or some odd employees, and those GMs are doing the same thing in those hotels to really understand them. In Gaylord, we call them stars, and they truly are the stars of our business to make this business run.
All right, I got it. Sorry, Anthony. Go ahead.
People ask me all the time, what brand do I work for? What should I do? What's going on with COVID? Should I stay in the business? Whatever. You get a guy like you as a mentor. Manny's very lucky. I thought Manny was smart on her own. Now I know why she's so smart. And when you get someone like you, it's a rocket ship. You work with the right brand, you work with the right people, and it becomes a rocket ship. On the other hand, when you don't get the right environment, you don't get the right mentor, and it becomes very stressful. And how many people do you know in the industry that become 40, 45 and leave or just so burnt out they can't take it anymore? Somebody said the other day, the gentleman that was on last week, he said, culture is like the weather. You live in it, every day. And, it seems like you really inspire. And listen, I love Manny. Manny's one of my best friends in the whole world. And I will tell you this, Manny is not an easy person. So I would imagine, she has high standards for herself and she has high standards for her boss and the people around her.
When I first discovered mentors, I had no idea what the word meant. I was a dishwasher, and I was going to get promoted to be the assistant executive steward. And I show up for work. We wear this white jacket, make me look like a doctor. And my first day, I had no idea how to tie a tie. Never tied a tie in my life. And so I looked around the hotel and I said, okay, who's the best dressed guy in town? It was a guy named Gabriel Malou. Now we're talking about 1975. And Gabriel was the banquet manager at the hotel I was at. And so Gabriel, I went over to him and I said, hey, Gabriel, I hate to ask you this. I'm embarrassed. I said, I don't know how to tie a tie. So he brings me in his office. We stand in front of the mirror. We work on tying our ties. And we do it 3 or 4 times until I got it right. And I thanked him and I said, you know what? And he didn't go around and tell everyone in the hotel how much of an idiot I was and didn't know how to tie a tie. So the next week I went to him and asked him how to do the payroll. And all of a sudden I was utilizing him and bouncing ideas off of a guy who I trusted because he wasn't going to out me. And at the same time, I realized that Gabriel was one of my first mentors in the business. And if it wasn't for him, I would have looked like a fool. And so I think that's what mentorship's all about. Formal mentoring doesn't work. What really meant is the natural formality of mentoring, where you find people that like you like them, and you want to help them. And I think the thing I'm most proud of in Marriott is the amount of people that are running this company today that I had a hand in working with them somewhere along the way.
And you said something I really haven't heard spoken that way. And a mentor is someone that doesn't out you. And early in my career, very early, I had a guy named Tom at the Embassy Suites in Overland Park, the first Embassy Suites. And we didn't work together for very long, maybe a few months. And I just remember, again, I was kind of a Brooklyn guy and I was in the military. I had just gotten out and he was training me. And because I was going to go work at the Embassy Suites in Times Square. And I remember Tom, he was from Minnesota, tall guy. And he just looked at me like, oh, who is this little weird guy from Brooklyn? But never made me feel embarrassed. But he always looked at me like, well, okay, I've never dealt with a guy like this before, but always made me feel respected and always made me feel calm, and never there was a stupid question. And so I completely understand that. And when you can embrace people, and again, like you said, I actually learned how to tie my tie right there in the Plaza Hotel. It was a security officer at night, and I asked him. I said, matter of fact, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he just texted me that a couple months ago, and he never made me feel dumb. And I remember him tying my tie and helped me tie my tie, and he smiled and he goes, "Now you always have a perfect tie." And since that day, I've never not had a perfect tie.
The other thing is you can have mentors. you can have mentors below you as well. I mean, I had a
Absolutely.
training manager at New York Marquis, and she was the only one that had the courage to come up and say, "Hey, you shouldn't say something like that, or you should say it differently." You know, she was the only one that had the guts to tell me that I was doing something that probably wasn't good, or I shouldn't say that, or maybe you should do it this way. And her name is Eileen, and I really respected her because I had 200 managers on that staff, and she was the only one who would tell me that I was out of line or I had to do something.
Yeah, and I talk about it all the time. You've got, like you just said, had the courage to tell me, because we sit in a position of authority where we have people's, we're helping people, and but we also have their jobs. We're their boss. And when somebody can come over to you and tell you the truth, and we've talked about this, me and Glenn, many times, and we just had somebody on the show a couple of weeks ago, Ruben Irwin, who was a guy that worked with me at Nickelodeon, and he was my mentor, and he saved my butt. And now he's the voice of Family Feud, and he's the warm-up guy for every show on TV. And he just was an entertainer at Nickelodeon. He just told me to shut up, and literally used the word "shut up." And I promoted him a half hour later. He was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he goes, "You remember what you said, what you did after I told you to shut up and we ran the meeting, was successful?" I go, "No." He goes, "You promoted me." I said, "That's right, I did."
I've been working with David.
All right,
Marriott.
Anthony, shut up.
David Marriott's been my boss for the last 12 years. And, David's much younger than I am. And I've really taken, we've taken a great liking to each other and have helped each other with our careers. I mean, I'm so impressed by his maturity and his ability to tell me, when he does a review, tell you the things that you need to do better. I mean, typically people don't have the courage to do that. They're intimidated by it, especially if you're younger than the person you're talking to. And, I think I've learned more from him than he's learned from me. And we formed a terrific bond and have worked together. But I'm not afraid. When I tell Dave, see something that I don't like in the company, I tell David straight out. I don't sugarcoat it, and I think that he appreciates that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So I got a question for you. What is the biggest transition you had to make when you went from operating smaller hotels to being a part of these mega hotels like the Marriott Marquis and then the Gaylord properties?
I only worked in my whole career in 2 hotels under 500 rooms twice.
Wow.
So I always loved my cousin Albert and I started the same day in the business. And Albert loves the small hotels. He's general manager of a 200-room hotel. And I could never work in a small hotel anymore because there was not enough stimulus, not enough complication, not enough things going on. So I love the big box hotels. So it's hard for me to answer.
All right. Then let me ask you this one, Mike.
Yeah.
Why did you stay on the Marriott side of things and not go into the casino gaming business, which has even bigger properties?
Yeah. I almost made that mistake.
Mistake.
Yeah. And it's just not my cup of tea. I'm a much more conservative person. I'm not a big gambler or like the gambling business. I'm not disrespectful of it because I'm actually responsible directly for the new hotel we're building in Las Vegas, the Drew, which is going to be 8.5 million square feet and about 30 restaurants and about 400,000 square feet of meeting space. So I get it all. We're going to have a 160,000 square feet casino in there,
right?
But it's not. That's not my expertise. It's not the part of the business.
Right. So the Drew's still happening. That hotel's still happening.
Oh yeah. I have a general manager there and a sales team, and we're just delayed because of COVID. We've put a hold on the construction, but we'll start the construction.
That's good. And a little show note for people who don't realize, that's the former property that was supposed to open as the Fontainebleau, but that property got sidelined in the last downturn.
That's breaking news to me because I heard, I think Glenn, you heard too, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard.
The Drew was not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's happening. We're partners in the deal with Witkoff in New York, and we have a great partner there. We believe that this is an unbelievable hotel. It's one of the only hotels in Vegas that actually has a connection to the brand new convention center. That hotel is going to be fabulous, and we have a big commitment in that hotel, and we're going to put a Marriott, a JW branded hotel in there. We're going to put an Addition in there, and we're going to put a very small boutique hotel in there. So we have 3 hotel brands under that roof.
I think maybe you put an Algonquin in there.
Yeah, I like Algonquin.
I was the general manager. Actually, Manny took my job like 10 years after I left.
what's funny, first time I toured Algonquin with Bill Marriott, he said, "Why do they have a cat? Why don't they have a dog?" I said, "Well, the cat is part of the story, Mr. Marriott." He goes, "Wouldn't you think a dog would be better?"
Yeah, you know what? When I took over, the owner, I'll just say one of the owners, not Marriott, but we were at Marriott at the time, and he said, "Let's get rid of the cat." He goes, "It's time to get rid of the cat." And I hire an assistant, and she worked at the Plaza Athenae for like 17 years. Oh no, the Peninsula for like 17 years. She comes in, and I hired her because of her. You know, she was amazing, just amazing. Worked at a 5-star hotel forever. And I realized within about 30 seconds, Alice, if you're listening, and then Manny's listening, and Manny and Alice are very good friends. The cat, I could have died where I was sitting, and Alice would have just walked over my body. But if the cat had like one problem, she would cry and she would run to the hospital. So we knew the cat would never leave. And it's a great story. The cat is a great story. Matter of fact, Kate Thompson, who did the Eloise book, actually did the Matilda book. Now the girl cat is Matilda, and I can't believe I'm going to forget. Hamlet is the boy cat, and we have Hamlet right now. And when we closed that hotel for the first time in the history of the Algonquin, we closed the hotel for the renovation. And so me and my team, we said, how are we going to close the hotel when we have Matilda? And somebody came up with the idea, it was probably my PR company, said, let's take Matilda out and say Matilda's going on vacation, so we got to close the hotel. So we took her out in her Bentley convertible with a handler to the stars pets. Literally, we have paparazzi on the outside of the door, literally 30, 40 newscasters, ABC, CBS, and Matilda goes on vacation. And she gets into this Bentley and she takes off. And then you see us locking the doors and say, we will not open till Matilda comes back from vacation. And then we renovated the hotel in 29 days. But yeah, Matilda's a big part of the story.
Yeah, I thought it was intriguing too. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, one of the things we did this after 9/11, and I kind of recommended this during COVID is "Who Moved My Cheese" was a great little book, and we gave it out to every manager in New York after 9/11. I recommended people read it during COVID because our world has changed overnight, and we're doing everything possible to get back into the business that we were in and get back into more business than we were in. So we're really excited about this this next phase in our business and working uniquely. But our most important goal was to get our employees back to work, get our managers back to work, and get our customers back into our buildings and enjoying our facilities.
Mike, with customers back in your buildings, I got one last question to you coming from our friend Dan the Man over there. Mike, what about this enforcing masks on guests? He says 70% of his guests just don't want to wear them. Anthony says just hand him one, but he can't walk away. Do you make it mandatory for all Marriotts? So, he doesn't think there's standards in place. How do you even handle it just as a good manager?
Yeah, we're not making it mandatory for all Marriotts, but some municipalities have made it mandatory. Some are strongly suggesting it. What we're saying to guests is we're strongly suggesting, we have great signage all over. We're strongly suggesting that you wear it to protect others, and we're going to respectfully protect you by having our employees wear it. And if you in the places where you're required to wear it, we're politely asking people to put the mask on. And if they don't want to put the mask on, we'd like to ask them to stay out of the public space. They can enjoy their guest room or areas that are not outside. But we want to try to respect other guests that are trying to do the right thing. So it's hey, wearing a mask is no fun, especially in the hot summer outside. But we have a duty and responsibility to take care of our customers and take care of our employees. And I think this is a temporary thing. I mean, it will go away. I think there were other parts of the pandemic cleanliness programs that won't go away, but this time will go away.
Right. Well, that makes sense when you're thinking about things to go away and not go away, because essentially you just want to make sure your hotels are as clean as they could possibly be over the long term. So, all right, let's, Anthony, you got one more question before we wrap up?
Before we let Mike go, I would be remiss if I didn't ask a person that basically you grew up with Marriott. Marriott has 50 hotels. You're just as much as Marriott as anybody in Marriott. And I'm going to hold you to this, and I'm sure you'll come up with a good one. Name your biggest memory, your best memory, the one moment in your 40-year career that stays with you to this day.
Yeah. Well, I got to say the most impactful thing that ever happened in my career was
this interview.
was not this. Besides the interview, was 9/11. My family and I, my son, my wife, and my 3 dogs. We lived in the New York Marquis. It was scary for my family, but I think that what made me most proud was how the team pulled together, how we figured out how to stay in business. And the New York Marquis went from a 2,000 room hotel into within 48 hours became an office building housing one of our biggest customers' accounting department that were doing corporate taxes. And that piece of business was supposed to be there for 3 months. And then we get back in the hotel business. They wound up staying for over a year. The hotel ran 93% occupancy during 9/11 when other hotels were barely staying in business. And we didn't have to lay off one employee during that time period. And I think that's probably the most proudest moment I've ever had in my whole career, because I felt like we did everything we could, pulled the rabbit out of the hat to stay in business and keep all of our employees working during what I thought was going to be the most difficult time in our entire lives for the hotel business. Little did I know we had a new chapter as we do now.
And you're talking about companies that were specifically displaced in the 9/11 tragedy. They needed a place for their workers.
Right. They were down in the frozen zone.
Yep.
And our people came up with this idea. Let's call them and say, hey, do any of you need any help? And lo and behold, we needed, there was tax accountants, thousands of them that were down there that needed to do the taxes for corporations. This was September. Taxes are due coming up. So they moved all their filing cabinets, tractor and trailers loaded filing cabinets. We took out all the furniture out of the guest rooms. We turned 700 guest rooms into double offices. So we had 1,400 offices. We put security guards on the floor. We had Starbucks for them. We did everything because nerves were racked. But by doing that, we saved the hotel. It's such a big building. It costs a lot of money to run every day. And we also saved the employees. And, I think that, the people in my team who came up with that idea were brilliant. And we even got an award from that company after they left. And it was the largest check that was ever written to Marriott after that. They were happily willing to pay us after staying all that time. And so I think that's probably the best time ever. The worst time ever, but the best time.
One hotel guide to another hotel guide. Yeah. Got to ask you the question, and you probably know the question. Where'd you put all the furniture? The ballroom?
Yeah, we did. We actually we started there, and then it was supposed to be for 3 months. And since it took longer, we put them on tractor and trailers and stored them off property.
Okay. Wow. I can't even imagine doing all that. Mike, before we let you go, any final thoughts, any message for our viewers and listeners?
Hey, I just, I know people are feeling nervous, and I know the media sometimes doesn't help. Getting on airplanes is not as scary as people think. Traveling is, an American right to be able to travel and see this country, whether you go by car, by airplane, or by train, or by bus. But we think that every hotel company, especially Marriott, has learned that we need to do a great job in order to give confidence to people when they come. And I think we're ready for that. And, we're looking forward to, I thank the leisure customers because we really appreciate that business, but we're looking for those group customers and those business travelers to get back on the road, and we're going to take good care of them.
Well, you know what? And you build trust with me. Like, I will stay at a Gaylord tomorrow. You build trust, and when someone's been in the business as long as you have and same brand, I mean, it comes through everything you say. So I would feel safe. You're thinking about everything. You're not taking anything for granted. And like you said, the number one priority is not the guest. It's not even the brand. It's getting those employees back to work.
That's right. And, our company's always had this motto from Mr. Marriott's father. And, we still follow today. Arnie Sorensen, our chairman, and Bill Marriott and David Marriott and David Grissom, all these, it's all about how do we build this business back to get our people back to work. I mean, we can't sleep at night at this point, with all the tragedy that's happened to our employees. We have a lot of people, thousands of people out there waiting to come back to work, and we need to get them there.
Well, one day when you become chairman, can you invite me to the big boy's office?
I'm getting old, man.
All right, but before you
actually, David Marriott's going to become chairman of the board. And I think in the next couple of years. So
wow,
we'll always have a Marriott at the chair.
That's
that's
wonderful.
great.
Now, Mike, last request from you. Please let the folks that are above you, let them know that this is a good place for them to come. We need. I'd love to have more Marriott people on here representing your company. So let Arnie know. Come on, anytime.
Well, you know what? To be honest with you, I enjoyed Mike. I'm good.
No, don't say that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we get scared for the media, but you guys have always been great supporters. You really understand the business, and it's great to talk to people.
And have you?
Right.
And have you watched our show at all before today?
Oh yeah, I actually did Glenn's show. Was a couple years. Was I in New York when I did?
I think it was a year and a half or so ago, something like that.
Oh, actually, I think it might have been when we first got with Gaylord. I think, but
I don't remember.
And I watch the show. I get the pings on my phone that Glenn's starting his podcast. And Anthony, I love the show when you go in the hotels and it looks like they used mattresses that we threw out.
But you know what? I always say the way we produced the show and the way I did the show was for guys like you to enjoy the show. Because if you can watch it and go, oh my God, yes, then I know I'm doing it right. And what's so funny is, Mike, you and I, because I was in Times Square when you were in Times Square. You and I have passed in our career probably 100 times. I mean, I've heard your name now that I'm realizing it. I've heard your name 100 times. And now it takes this show to get us together, but it's incredible. We probably walked out. We probably ate the same lunch counter for years.
You got to beat up Manny. Manny never told me she knew you.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I first met Manny, he was the general manager at Algonquin. And the Algonquin, I'm sure you have a hotel that's in your heart. And the Algonquin is my hotel. So anytime somebody becomes general manager, I find my way in. I have a drink. I call Alice, who's our assistant, who's still there. And I say, ask the general manager to come by. So she comes by, and we and her literally became friends in about 10 seconds. 10 seconds. So to this day, I always go in and meet the new general manager. I feel like it's my hotel. And I'm always there when I'm coming back. And you know what? I always say, don't be surprised one day if I'm the GM of Algonquin again. It was the greatest time of my life. And it was the scariest time of my life as a general manager, because it wasn't where it is today. And when I took over, it was intense. And it really, I did a lot of crying in hallways in that hotel.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We really appreciate you being here. I'd love to get you back again soon. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Be safe.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah. Wow. How awesome was that?
Yeah. You know what's great? And I'm reading the comments, and people are like, wow, another great guest, another great show. And like, for people that don't know, as Dana White from UFC says, now you know. That, my friend, is a hotel executive. That is a general manager. That's a busboy. That is the heart of our industry. That is the soul that makes up these great brands and these great hotels. And because he just lives it and breathes it every day. And he understands, at the end of the day, it's about the employees and guests, but it's a business. When you're flipping a hotel and you're making an office building, you know what kind of work it takes to get a hotel to become an office building in 35 seconds? Mm-hmm. And then get everybody on board and get everybody going in the same direction. Doesn't he have just a kind of a personality?
He's one of those guys like you just want to do well for, right? It's just like natural. I don't even have to like want to work harder. It'll just occur. Right.
You couldn't have said it any better.
How about this? We got a question from Tracy McCafferty. What do you think of the new hotel going up on Beach 108th? That's Anthony's home area.
Don't you comment, Glenn. Don't you comment.
All right.
We can't comment on it.
I won't comment, but I will say at this point, hey, everybody tune into the show tomorrow.
Just stay tuned to our show.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out here into our regular end of show plugs?
Listen, I always say this is my favorite interview. But again, today was one of my favorite interviews. Being a hotel guy and being like, I don't know, just like knowing what I know and knowing what he knows, and that we both lived the same experience in Manhattan back in the 80s and the 90s, and coming up in this business, and how difficult and challenging this business, but how incredible it is. It is so amazing and just a blessing to be around and hear someone like him, and just so much joy. Great show today. What did he say? Great show. We needed to see the energy these days. Thanks, Manny. And look, I'm smiling. I'm going to smile the rest of the show just for you because you said I didn't smile.
That's great. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Be sure to check out our Hotel Reboot Podfriend series and go check out Hospitality Success as well. Right, Anthony?
Absolutely. HospitalitySuccess.com on Facebook or on my website, HospitalitySuccess.com. And I'm still smiling.
Yep. All right. And be sure to subscribe to our newsletter if you aren't already. Text the word hotel to 66866 for more great content. Goes out every Sunday night, just in case you miss one of these shows. It's easily there in digest format for you. All right. So thank you so much for being here. Remember, you guys, you got one life, so blaze on and
thank you so much for checking in.
See you tomorrow.